We're back in from recess. I'm sorry if you're missing third house. We're first house, finance. So we're going to go with it. We are going to start with our agenda. We will start with Assembly Bill 328. Is that okay? All righty. Would you like to come forward? And that will allow our next presenter to get here in time. And we'll see if we can get through this. All right, please go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. This is Leah Chan Greenwald. I'm the Dean at the Boyd School of Law at UNLV. And it's really a pleasure to be here, committee members. Assembly Bill 328 appropriates $1 million over the biennium for the Thomas and Mack legal clinics. And the clinics serve the community through our faculty supervising students, law students, typically third-year law students. They are allowed to provide direct legal services to the community in a wide array of areas, such as mediation, misdemeanor, family law, and immigration law. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. So am I understanding that you need this, and Dr. Brooks, if you want to chime in here, this would be great. Am I understanding you need 500,000 in each fiscal year?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Constance Brooks for the record. Yes, Madam Chair, that is correct.
Senator Wynn.
This appropriation over that 500,000, what would that include, like, for the things? I am obviously a proud alumni of the Boyd School of Law. Unfortunately, I was in that second class and we didn't quite have those clinics up and running yet, but I'm curious on what this would provide for those law students going through that. I know you have a various number of clinics, so what does that cover?
Leah Greenwald, for the record, Madam Chair, through Senator Nguyen, thank you for that question. The legal clinic, to conceptualize it, it's like a small in-house law firm housed within the law school. And so there are a number of operational costs, ranging from furniture to fees that we pay on behalf of clients that the clinic needs to bear.
A follow-up. My other question is, I know there had been talk, is the law clinic still housed out of the law school, or are there other locations? I know there had been talks of perhaps having things up in northern or in rural areas, so I'm wondering if this would allow any of that kind of expansion or satellite campuses.
Leah Greenwald, for the record. The expansion, not physically, but given the technology that we have today, that could be something that the clinic thinks about more fully over the next 2 years with this funding.
Thank you very much. Senator Gansert.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'd like to know about your current sources of income and how this would bolster what's your typical budget, and where do those, you mentioned there's some fees and things, but do you pay the law students any money? Do you have staff, or what does your operation look like? Thank you.
Leah Greenwald, for the record, thank you so much for that question. We do have staff. Our current sources of funding come from an endowment, the Thomas and Mack endowment that actually established the clinic. It's not it's sufficient, the endowment is not sufficient to cover all of the costs that come with running the clinic. We don't pay the law students, as they receive up to 5 or 6 credits of coursework for their work in the clinic itself.
Thank you. And then what's your typical budget? I mean, what are your operating expenses? Because I want to give some context in what $500,000 a year means to you.
Thank you for that question. Leah Greenwald, for the record. The costs can range depending on how many clinics we have, from $1.5 million to $2.5 million. Some of the costs come from as I mentioned, the operational costs, the technology fees. We're currently modernizing all of our filing to make it more secure and safe. And so it's a matter of how many clinics we're able to fund with our faculty who are willing to teach it. We currently hired 2 new faculty members, with current funding levels, and so we're excited to bring on 2 new clinics, and that's some of this funding would be in anticipation.
Thank you. When you talk about clinics, is that a place or is that days where you have people come in? I just need to understand what, because I'm thinking it's a place, but then you kind of can't open them and shut them as flexibly. So if you can just help me understand that. And so it seems like this is a good boost. Would that help you with your technology, because a lot of times when people come in for one-shots, it's about they have certain projects they want to accomplish, and that's why they're looking for funds. Thank you.
Leah Greenwald for the record. That's right. This would be for a variety of different operational expenses, startup costs, if you will, that then are carried, that are one-time types of costs. The clinics in general, I'll talk more softly. The clinics, you don't want to wake a sleeping baby.
We do babies. We do a lot of things around here.
I love it. The clinic is a virtual place, if you will. We do see in-house. We do see clients who come in. A lot of our counseling these days, does take place online to meet the clients where they are, and so those technology costs can add up. But we have that in terms of the initial down payments, if you will, for the computers and the data lines and the like.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Senator Titus.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And along that same line, you mentioned computers and day-to-day cost. And this was the same amount you were awarded last session, is that correct?
Leah Greenwald for the record. This is actually an increase from last time.
I agree. And you used all the funds from last session and then had to stop doing this service?
Actually, we didn't. Leah Greenwald for the record. We didn't stop service in the sense that we had some faculty retire, and so the clinics didn't run. And during COVID, a number of the clinics, for example, the ones that were more court-facing, didn't run, and so we were able to make do with the funding that we had.
And I guess this is for staff. Does this revert back if it's not used? But it sounds like you could put it to good use. I'm just wondering what the process is with something like this.
I'll have Mr. Thorley address that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Wayne Thorley for the record, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division. Subsection 2 of Section 1 requires that any remaining balance of the appropriated funding reverts at the end of fiscal years 24 and 25, respectively.
Thank you very much. Senator Neal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So it's more of a comment. I haven't met you. We've talked. And so I just want to openly say thank you for allowing Professor Fritz and the Kendra and Alco, their first-year law students, to work on the Windsor Park project. And I know we had, when Dean Hamilton was there, we had Sebastian Ross, and then we had Candace Mays. And so they have been a great help. And so I appreciate the extension of allowing them to continue to work towards this issue with me, and commitment from Boyd. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any additional questions or comments on this particular bill? All right. I know we have lots of Boyd Law School folk up here, and we're happy to have them. And we thank you very much for your information, and we'll go on to support. All right. Is there anyone here in Carson City in support? You want me to say in support of rebels, or do you want me to say in support of the bill?
Of both.
In support of AB 328. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Constance Brooks, proudly representing the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, home of the rebels, as you stated. We couldn't be more proud of the Thomas and Mack Legal Clinic. We are very supportive, are very appreciative of the state and this body for its continued financial support for the services that we provide. This is an example of UNLV serving as a resource to our valley and to our state, and so we appreciate this investment and partnership with the legislature. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any additional support here in Carson City? In Las Vegas? Mr. Morales, you just sitting back there? In the peanut gallery? Like, come on. Any support on the phone lines? BPS when you're ready.
The public line is open and working. You have no callers at this time.
Thank you so much. We'll go in opposition here in Carson City. In Las Vegas, on the phone lines, BPS when you're ready.
The public line is open and working. You have no callers at this time.
Thank you very much. And we'll go to neutral here in Carson City, in Las Vegas, and on the phone lines, BPS when you're ready.
The public line is open and working. You have no callers at this time.
Thank you very much. All right. Any closing remarks from anybody? All right. Thank you very much. Then we'll close the hearing on Assembly Bill 328, and we'll open the hearing on Senate Bill 505. Okay. Baby Cole's ready. Okay, go ahead when you're ready with Senate Bill 505.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Nicole Canizaro. I represent Senate District 6 in the northwest portion of the Las Vegas Valley, and I'm pleased to be here with you tonight to talk about Senate Bill 505. So many of you may know that the Nevada Legislature has set an ambitious target for the state of Nevada to be net zero by 2050, and by last measure, the state is actually quite far from this particular goal. In fact, in a 2021 report by the Nevada Division of Environmental Protection, we are falling behind all of our projected benchmarks. Not only do Nevadans deserve more, they deserve to know if the state's progress, they deserve to know of the state's progress more than just every couple of years. And so that is why we are finally preparing to track some state emissions in near real time, beginning with some state buildings and a small sample of vehicle fleets. However, as the state begins to collect this data, we must begin to implement a plan to achieve the ultimate goal of reducing our emissions. Further, we need to report regularly to the public our progress towards meeting our statutory goals. Senate Bill 505 proposes an appropriation for this additional funding for the Governor's Office of Energy. These funds will allow the GOE to further identify energy and emissions hotspots across the state and identify the most cost-effective interventions. By using data to identify cost-effective interventions, the state will know more and be able to do more to reduce its environmental impact while being good stewards of taxpayer dollars. Senate Bill 505's funding and the expansion of carbon benchmarking will allow the state to perform will also create additional federal funding opportunities that are tied to this benchmarking and expanded reporting. Better energy and emissions data will make Nevada more competitive for federal funding opportunities in the Inflation Reduction Act. Senate Bill 505 will allow for the state to start measuring its purchasing impacts as well, which allows us to continue leading the country. Senate Bill 505 is a critical next step for the state to achieve its emissions goals adopted by this body and will help in the effort to protect Nevada for generations to come. And it will help measure and report our emissions in a way that should be the example for other states to follow. So I have a little bit of information for some pieces of Senate Bill 505 and what it will provide the Governor's Office of Energy with. So this new funding that is outlaid in Senate Bill 505 will allow for us to carry out critical tasks that build on efforts to capture granular greenhouse gas emissions, and that data from state buildings to identify high impact opportunities to reduce those emissions as cost effectively as possible. Additional activities that will be enabled by Senate Bill 505 that are not currently funded in some similar pieces that this committee has heard in the past include an expansion of emissions tracking to state motor vehicles and identification of changes in vehicle operations to reduce emissions and costs. And this includes tracking emissions associated with electricity used to charge state electric vehicles, auditing state buildings to identify the most cost-effective interventions possible for reducing greenhouse gas emissions, guided by accepted ASHRAE standards. I might be saying that incorrectly. Develop a plan through the use of automated insights to reduce the state's greenhouse gas emissions as close to zero as possible, and use those insights for long-term budgetary planning. And establish technological processes to automate the upload of data necessary to achieve the above requirements in order to conserve state personnel time and resources otherwise necessary for manual uploading of data, and to ensure such data is accessible as soon as possible after energy consumption occurs. With that, Madam Chair, what I would like to do is open it up for potentially any questions that the committee may have, unless there's something else that Mr. Thorley would like to add. I think we're just here to be able to answer questions, and he is my backup this evening. So.
Okay, good backup. Anybody have questions? Senator Titus.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Majority Leader, for bringing the bill forward. So how did you come up with the $11 million figure? And along that line, is it something the state's going to do internally? Do you have plans for the subcontractors, companies that do this kind of thing? Just that'll be first go.
Thank you for the question, Senator Titus. Nicole Canizaro, Senate District 6, through you, Madam Chair, to Senator Titus. So in this particular bill, I think that the sum of $11 million seemed to be sort of just the right amount that we think would be appropriate in order to fund a contract to be able to do some of the things that are outlined in Senate Bill 505. And in terms of how this would operate, this would be through the Office of Energy, so it's an appropriation, right, through the Office of Energy, who would then be able to contract out to vendors and go through the whole process that they would have to go through in order to accomplish what then is also laid out in the different subdivisions A through E of subsection 1 in the bill.
So will the Office of Energy then need to have more, if they're going to be given basically $11 million to do the studies that you outlined, and I'm not saying they're not needed and any of that, I'm just saying, will they be then looking at subcontractors, and then they will decide north, south, east, west, where these studies are going to be done, and then they will pick the subcontractors? Will they come back to us when they spend these funds then, and like say IFC, say they have picked a contractor to do emissions on all the vehicles? That's not probably the same person that's going to do whether a windows leak energy, and that's real. You know, NV Energy will go around and say, hey, your top story of your house, that window up there, they've done it to me. That's the window that you're losing heat from, and so those are all separate from, you know, car emissions and stuff. So you're going to have the energy come back and let us know what their plans are for this money then?
So thank you for the question, Nicole Canizaro, Senate District 6, through you, Madam Chair, to Senator Titus. In this particular bill, there are not any reporting requirements. Obviously, we've outlaid some goals and pieces of this for what we would like for this program to look like. But this really is sort of something that would run through the Office of Energy that, again, they would have to contract out. So whether that's, you know, several different contracts or one contract in one place that would be able to accomplish all of these goals is something that's not prescriptive in the bill. And then there aren't any particular reporting requirements, but to the extent that this would fall within any other authority that the IFC or this committee may have, probably not this committee, but IFC, to the extent that we are approving contracts or approving outlays of money, that would follow the normal processes.
Thank you very much. All right, Senator Gansert.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I thought we had some ARPA dollars that we allocated for a purpose of evaluating our buildings. I was thinking it was $5 million or something like that. Thank you.
Wayne Thorley for the record, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division. The common disclaimer as LCB staff, I am here neither to support nor oppose this legislation, but here to answer questions regarding the bill. In October, the IFC did approve a $5 million allocation of ARPA funds from the Coronavirus State Fiscal Recovery Funds to the Governor's Office of Energy for a contract and technical support for a study to gather data on electricity usage and greenhouse gas emissions in state-owned buildings. That contract was approved by the Board of Examiners in April of this year and is in place. And the program supported by the contract is currently being operated. This bill adds additional pieces to the program beyond just tracking electricity and tracking electricity usage and gathering data related to that in state-owned buildings. The subsections A through E in subsection 1 lay out what the $11 million would be used for. So it's in addition to emissions from state-owned buildings, it's emissions from state fleet vehicles, it's acquiring analytical tools to do real-time tracking, developing a web portal to be able to display to the public the data that is gathered, and then also using the data to develop long-term budgeting needs for state-owned buildings and fleet vehicles and other operations of state government that cause energy emissions.
So thank you. So that contract's to evaluate, and this is more to track. And I know the city of Reno is using a company, N0, that I think does some of this type of work and does dashboards and things like that. Do we anticipate, because you also have automobiles, I don't know whether they do automobiles, and I don't know what the market is out there for these types of companies, but so the Governor's Office of Energy would do an RFP, and do we think that there's one company as a solution, or do we think we're going to have to do multiple because of the scope of this?
Thank you for the question. Nicole Canizaro, Senate District 6, through you, Madam Chair, to Senator Severs-Gansert. I think this would be an RFP, right? So it could be one company, it could be several. It just would depend on what that company can sort of bring in that process to say, look, we can meet these goals, we can meet these standards, and again, that would run through the Office of Energy.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, seeing no more questions, thank you very much. And with that, we will go to those in support. In Carson City, Las Vegas, on the phone lines, BPS when you're ready.
Your public line is open and working. You have no callers at this time.
Thank you very much. We'll go to opposition. In Carson City, in Las Vegas, on the phone lines, when you're ready, BPS.
Your public line is open and working. You have no callers at this time.
Thank you very much. And we'll go to neutral here in Carson City, in Las Vegas, and on the phone lines, BPS, when you're ready.
The public line is open and working. You have no callers at this time.
Thank you very much. Closing remarks. Okay. With that, we'll close the hearing on Senate Bill 505. And we will go to our work session when Mr. Thorley and Ms. Crockett are ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Wayne Thorley again for the record, LCB Fiscal Analysis. We'll begin with Senate Bill 99, which was heard in this committee on May 22nd. The bill makes an appropriation of $600,000 in each year of the upcoming biennium to the Desert Research Institute to support the Nevada State Cloud Seeding Program. The bill also requires DRI to submit a report to the Interim Finance Committee of the expenditures made from this appropriation on or before September 2024, and then also September 2025. The bill was presented by Senator Goycochea and the folks from DRI. There were no amendments proposed at the hearing. Support testimony was provided by the Vegas Chamber, the Humboldt River Water Basin Authority, Nevada Farm Bureau, and NSHE. There was no testimony in opposition or neutral. If the committee wishes to move this bill, the appropriate action would be to do pass.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion to pass.
So moved to do pass.
Thank you very much, Senator Wynn. Senator Titus is the second. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes, and I will give the floor statement to Senator Goycochea. All right, we will go on to Senate Bill 191.
Kathy Crockett, Fiscal Analysis Division. Senate Bill 191, the first reprint, was heard in committee on May 29th. It requires the Director of the Department of Health and Human Services to include in the state plan for Medicaid coverage for the cost of services provided by behavior analysts, assistant behavior analysts, and registered behavior technicians to Medicaid recipients who are less than 27 years of age. The bill also increases the maximum fee that the Board of Applied Behavior Analysis may charge for the issuance of an initial license as a behavior analyst or assistant behavior analyst from $25 to $450. The bill becomes effective upon passage and approval for preparatory administrative tasks and on January 1st, 2024 for all other purposes. The bill was presented by Senator Severs-Gansert, and no amendments were discussed on the bill during the hearing. Regarding the fiscal impact, the Division of Healthcare Financing and Policy indicated a cost totaling $869,000 approximately in fiscal year 2024 and $2.5 million in fiscal year 2025. However, upon discussion with the agency, they indicated they could remove a line item related to contractual costs in recognition of $1 million per year that was added to their budget in the budget closing for additional administrative support related to waivers. So that would decrease the total funding to general funds of $118,272 in fiscal year 2024 and $661,531 in fiscal year 2025, and that would be matched with authorized funding. If the committee wishes to take action on this bill, the appropriate motion would be to amend and do pass with funding for the Division of Healthcare Financing and Policy.
Thank you very much. Any discussion on this bill? All right, with that, I'll accept a motion to move Senate Bill 191. So moved from Senator Wynn, second from Senator Goycochea. Amend and do pass on that. And with that, we have a motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes, and I will go to the floor statement to Senator Gansert. All right, we will move on to Senate Bill 241.
Kathy Crockett, Fiscal Analysis Division. Senate Bill 241 was heard on committee in May 16th. It requires the Director of the Department of Health and Human Services to include in the state plan for Medicaid, to the extent that federal financial participation is available, a requirement that the state must pay the non-federal share of expenditures for outpatient and swing bed services provided at critical access hospitals, and reimburse a critical access hospital for such services at a rate equal to the actual cost of providing the services or the amount charged by the hospital for the services, whichever is less. The bill is effective on January 1st, 2024, and was presented by Senator Titus, accompanied by the Director of the Nevada Rural Hospital Association. There were no amendments presented on the bill during the hearing. However, subsequent to the hearing, an amendment was provided by the Nevada Rural Hospital Association to specify that the provisions would apply to public and or private hospitals, which would have a impact on the fiscal cost of the bill. Initially, the cost of the bill was $2.6 million in fiscal year 2024 and $6.1 million in fiscal year 2025, and the Division of Healthcare Financing and Policy has provided an updated fiscal cost of a total cost of $102,252 in fiscal year 24, of which $280,015 would be general fund, and in fiscal year 2025, a total cost of $2.4 million, of which $683,550 would be general fund. There were a number of rural hospitals who provided testimony in support of the bill. There were no comments in opposition or neutral. If the committee wishes to take action on the bill, the motion would be to amend and do pass with the change discussed to section 1 of the bill and funding to support the agency's costs.
Thank you very much. Any discussion on this bill? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion. Senator Neal, amend and do pass. And second from Senator Canizaro. And with that, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes, and I'll give Senator Titus the floor statement. Thank you very much. You're very welcome. We'll move on to Senate Bill 385, and when you're ready, please go ahead.
Kathy Crockett, Fiscal Analysis Division. Senate Bill 385, the first reprint was heard in committee on May 19th. It requires a hospital that discharges a patient to establish a team of healthcare providers, including a dietitian, to assist in caring for the patient during rehabilitation at his or her residence. Further, the primary care physician of a patient at a hospital must document reasons why any customary tests were not ordered or conducted. The bill requires a home healthcare entity to consult with a dietitian as needed to ensure the dietary needs of a patient discharge are understood by the patient and/or caregiver. Additionally, the bill requires the director of the Department of Health and Human Services to include in the state plan for Medicaid a requirement that the state pay the non-federal share of expenditures for the filling of cavities and the fabrication, preparation, and placement of temporary or permanent crowns. The department must apply for federal approval necessary to provide such coverage. The bill is effective on various dates. 1 through 7 sections and 10 and 11 are effective on October 1st, 2023. Sections 8 to 9.8 become effective upon passage and approval for preparatory administrative tasks and on January 1st, 2024 for all other purposes. The bill was presented by Senator Neal. There was an amendment discussed at the bill hearing presented by Renown regarding section 1, subsection 3 to change the wording of that section. However, in discussions with Senator Neal, she indicated that her preference would be to delete that section in its entirety, and that would not change the fiscal impact of the bill. Regarding the fiscal impact, the Division of Public and Behavioral Health initially submitted a fiscal note. However, the first reprint of the bill did eliminate that fiscal impact, and that was indicated by the agency at the bill hearing. The Division of Healthcare Financing and Policy did submit a fiscal note on the bill to provide medical service costs as well as system and actuarial costs. And that total cost is $6.3 million in fiscal year 2024 and $7.2 million in fiscal year 2025, of which general funds would total $1,165,121 in fiscal year 2024 and $1,410,808 in fiscal year 2025. There was no testimony in support or opposition. The Nevada Hospital Association and the Deputy Administrator of the Division of Public Behavioral Health testified in neutral on the bill. If the committee wishes to take action on this bill, the appropriate motion would be to amend and do pass with the amendment proposed by Senator Neal, as well as funding for the agency to provide dental services to Medicaid participants.
Thank you very much. Any discussion? Senator Gokachea.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I didn't catch what section was amended out. Was
Sorry. Should I answer that?
Ms. Crockett, did you hear his question? Either one of you. I don't care who it is. Go ahead.
So what was amended out is in section 1, sub 3.
tree? I'm good with that. Good move.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
So, thank you, Madam Chair. I was a no in committee because of section 1, number 3, and so thank you for that. And I do think it's important at discharge planning that, I had stated this in the committee, that in many areas the dietitians are not available, but I like the idea that we need to have some discussion on the diet. We need to have some discussion that, hey, here's the numbers, here's where you can go. So I appreciate Senator Neal bringing this forward, and I especially appreciate her deleting section 1, number 3.
Thank you very much. All right. With that, I'll accept a motion. Senator Harris, amend and do pass. With the deleted section 1, part 3, and second from Senator Wynn. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Thank you very much. And Senator Neal, I will give you the floor statement. And we will go on to Senate Bill 395.
Kathy Crockett, Fiscal Analysis Division. Senate Bill 395, the first reprint was heard in committee on May 19th. The bill limits, with exceptions, that the total aggregate number of residential real property in this state that may be bought in 1 year by corporations and limited liability companies must not exceed 1,000 units, and imposes the same limit in the current calendar year. Senate Bill 395 requires the creation and maintenance of a registry of corporations and limited liability companies that purchase or own residential real property in this state by the Securities Division of the Office of the Secretary of State, and requires a corporation or limited liability company to register with the Securities Division before purchasing any residential real property in the state. The Secretary of State would be authorized to charge a fee for such registries, and requires the Secretary of State to adopt regulations necessary to implement the bill. The bill is effective on October 1st, 2023. And it was presented by Senator Neal. No amendments were discussed during the bill hearing. However, in discussions with Senator Neal, she expressed that she would like the provisions of the bill to apply to corporations, limited liability companies, and their affiliates. So in particular, that would be a change to section 1, subsection 4, line 24. So add or its affiliates after limited liability company on that line. Regarding the fiscal impact, the Secretary of State submitted a fiscal note indicating a fiscal year 2024 impact of $476,004 and a fiscal year 2025 fiscal impact of $81,705 related to personnel and operating costs of creating and maintaining the registry. The fiscal note submitted didn't indicate that fee revenue authorized in the bill would eventually offset costs related to the continued maintenance of the registry. There was no testimony in support, opposition, or neutral. If the committee wishes to take action on the bill, the appropriate motion would be to amend and do pass with the amendment that Senator Neal indicated to apply to corporations, limited liability companies, and affiliates, and to add funding to support the Secretary of State's startup costs for the registry.
Thank you very much. Any questions or discussion on this particular bill? Senator Gansert.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to reserve my right. I understand the issue with corporations, but then we just sat through a revenue meeting about REITs. There's like all these different ways that homes are purchased and lands purchased and leased and all kinds of things. So I'm not sure what the outcome of this is going to be. Thank you.
All All right, all right. Okay, is the proper motion on this, Ms. Crockett, an amend and do pass, or just a do pass?
It would be amend and do pass because the Secretary of State's office would have
Conceptual
costs.
amend, okay.
Costs, and then with the conceptual amendment discussed, provided by Senator Neal.
All righty, then with that, I will accept an amend and do pass with a conceptual amendment from Senator Wynn, second from Senator Neal. Any discussion? All those in favor? I'm sorry, Senator Gokachia.
Oh, you're fine. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just concerned about that. In most of the jurisdictions I represent, we'd love to have 1,000 units, let alone if they were owned by one. And this is going to require anybody that is a corporation that buys rental property does have to register. So it's an impact. I think it's an overreach. It's great for Clark County, but probably not what I represent, even though I have a piece of Clark. Thank you.
Okay. Senator Titus is a ditto. All right. With that, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Nay from Senator Titus, Senator Gokachia. And with that, are you a nay? Okay. Reserved right from Senator Gansert. The motion passes, and I will give the floor statement to Senator Neal. All right, we will have another item on our agenda. We have a BDR to introduce, so hang on.
Madam Chair, in the meantime, I had a question. So Senator Orenshaw has done a lot of work around autism, and it dawned on me when we were passing this that he might want to be on SB 191, and we have to amend it anyway to put some money in it. Is there a way to take it back and re-amend it to add Senator Orenshaw and put the money in it, since we have to, it's an amend do pass?
You know, at this point, we're trying not to do amendments, and I agree with you, Senator Orenshaw. And by the way, myself have done a lot of work with autism.
Right.
So,
Okay.
but I think we're going to probably have to bypass that a little bit.
It's fine.
It's a lot. We have 3 days, so
We're good.
or whatever we have.
Thank
Madam
you.
Chair,
Yes.
if I may.
Yes.
Because I believe because this is a Senate bill and we're still in the Senate, you can be amended on by filling out the co-sponsor
I don't want to
form.
go through that. Thank you. I was just asking because I know we had to put some money in it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that information, Senator Harris. And we can always take that up outside the committee. Thank you very much. All right, Mr. Thorley, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The committee members have in front of them a BDR which requires committee introduction. It is BDR S 1227, makes a summary or makes an appropriation for the implementation of certain collective bargaining agreements. This is a BDR from the governor's office. NRS 288.560 requires that if a provision of collective bargaining agreement requires an act of the legislature to be given effect, that the governor must submit a BDR to effectuate the change in that provision. This BDR accomplishes that and makes various appropriations for the costs of implementing various collective bargaining agreements that have been approved by the Board of Examiners. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Okay, all those in favor say, I'm sorry, Senator Titus.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just to be clear, this is an increase in then salaries that they have negotiated through collective bargainings, and this is the cost to that? Is that what I'm reading here?
Wayne Thorley for the record, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division. Senator Titus, the appropriations in this bill represent funding for the cost of implementing various provisions of the collective bargaining agreements. They all differ. It could be funding for special pay. It could be funding for educational attainment.
This is just an introduction, I understand.
Yes. Yes, this was just received from the governor's office, so we're just introducing it. It does not mean that you have to support it. So I would take a motion. Okay, Senator Titus. Senator Harris is a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Thank you very much. And with that, we'll go to our last item, public comment. Anybody here in Carson City? Anybody in Las Vegas? And phone lines, please, BPS when you're ready.
If you would like to speak in public comment, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Again, if you would like to speak in public comment, please press star 9 now. Chair, you have no callers wishing to participate at this time.
Thank you very much. And with that, this meeting is adjourned. We will be meeting in the morning. And it may be call of the chair. We're not quite sure, but stay tuned. Thank you very much. No. Tomorrow morning.